Okay, so first of all, I want to thank everybody for being here. I want to tell everyone if you have questions that you would like to ask me, you can reach out to me either by my email or my cell phone. You can call me at any time, either myself or Joe Combs. You can call him as well. Uh, we'll go ahead and give you some stuff at the end of this, some protocols that we've created on inspection protocols and some things, some checklists you can kind of create your own. Um, I think I'll start by saying uh, the importance of regular roof inspections are underestimated by the general public. I think for us that are roofing contractors or roofers or inspectors, we see the value and we see all the problems and issues on a daily basis. When we walk these roofs, we'll see flashing that's loose or missing. We'll see debris on the roofs. We'll see, gutters and scuppers that are clogged. We'll see holes from the HVAC guys. We'll see all of these issues and problems. And people that are on the ground very rarely, if ever, will ever get on the roof and really see the condition of their roofs. So it's very, very important that roofs are maintained, and that starts with an inspection. We were talking about this issue just a few minutes ago about the importance of a roofing inspection, and I just told a few of my guys. I said, if I was a building owner of a large commercial building, and let's say it was in Michigan somewhere, I would want someone, my property manager or someone, to provide me with an annual or biannual inspection of the condition of my roof, because the roof is the number one defense to the building enclosure. If the roof fails, it's very, very expensive to repair or to replace. And when the roof fails, if you have a commercial building, you're usually leasing it. And if it leaks, nobody wants to rent it because it's getting their product wet and their customers are having to go around big wet areas. It's a liability as well as a very discouraging thing for people to see on the interior of a building. How many of us have walked into a Walmart and we see a great big old leak there and we're like, what the heck is happening to this place? And so it really begins to shine a light on the possible owners or the business that may be in that particular facility. So if I was a building owner, I would want to ensure that my roofs were in good condition. So that's first and foremost, is the importance of the inspections. There's a couple other things. Whenever there's debris on a roof, especially any organic growth, there now is a diminishing factor on that roof where that roof begins to decay and deteriorate at a much higher rate than it ever would before. Also, if there's an HVAC drain line that is broken or dislodged or just leaking out on the roof, like a lot of the HVAC contractors do, they don't even put a drain in, they just let it go on the roof. Anytime that water hits any type of roof that I'm aware of, I don't care if it's a BURG or a TPO or EPDM, there's a sacrificial element that is happening to that roof in that area. And you can see it over a period of time. As a period of time goes, that particular area where the leak is will deteriorate at a much, much higher rate. So if these things aren't taken care of, then we're going to have a big problem with the roof. We all know that a very small opening can create a very, very big problem if left unchecked. And most of the problems we see in roofs are termination joints, flashing, caulking, pitch pans. And I'm talking mostly today about commercial roofs. If anybody wants to talk about residential, we can do that. I have a protocol I've created for residential inspections as well. I'll send to you guys. But mostly today, I'm going to be talking about commercial roofs. But in those items, not only do you have pitch pans, but you also have HVAC units and their termination points, their flashing, their counter flashing. All of that stuff is it's manipulated by the HVAC guys and other people working on the roof. And let me tell you, the HVAC guys are probably the worst people you can ever have around a roof, right? I mean, all of us that walk roofs, we know they drop ladders and tools, and they're the single plies, especially they're cutting the single plies, and they never say a word. They have a puncture or a hole. And so if these things aren't looked at and addressed and found and taken care of, a very, very small hole that's small today, in a year from now, is going to affect a very, very large area, especially as you have multiple rains, large rains, you have ice, you have snow, you have the things that really begin to push water into a roofing system. As soon as the insulation gets wet, not only do you have a loss of R value, but now you also have an insulation that is deteriorated because of moisture. There's not an insulation out there that will not deteriorate with prolonged moisture that it's given to from the leaking. So I want to say that these are the issues that we'll deal with each and every day. So why does an inspection matter? And let me back up and say, I know everybody's out there trying to sell this product. We do the same thing. We sell a product of roof inspections because it generates a lot of work for all of us, especially when there's a storm. But the argument is that the property manager and the owner, they have to be educated. And the argument is, well, why should I pay money when the roof's only 3 years old? Well, it's because weather affects roofs each and every day. And they say, well, I have a warranty on my roof. Well, most people don't realize that the warranty coverage is usually void in the first year in Dallas-Fort Worth. Okay, in this area of the country, it's usually gone. Why? Because the winds are almost always every year over 55 miles per hour. If you read the small print of those warranties, 55 miles per hour or higher winds, the warranty is void. And that's easily documented throughout Dallas-Fort Worth. So the argument that we have to have, or the sales pitch that we have to have, is we will find debris, we will find other issues from HVAC guys or workers or people on the roof, from bullet holes. And I think all of us that been on a lot of commercial roofs, bullet holes are almost in every roof. Because people just, I guess it's 4th of July or Christmas or whatever, in the inner city, they'll take their guns and start just shooting up in the air. And we'll find bullet holes in HVAC units and also in the roofing system itself. But one small hole or one small crack or one small misplaced flashing creates a giant problem that could lead to a roof deteriorating in a way that will cause great expense to the owner. If these things are caught early, then it's almost like preventive medicine. If these things are caught early, then of course it's easy to address and to fix and to repair these issues and these items, and then make the roof whole again. So inspections matter. I'd like to go ahead and share my screen because I think it'd be helpful. I'll start with single ply inspection, okay? How's that? So this is a little template, and we're going to send this out to you so everybody has it. And this is just a format, okay? You guys can doll it up and do it how you want. There's also a lot of apps and other report writing things. We use Roof Logic, if anybody's familiar with that. Roof Logic is a paid subscription. It's a database that that you can put a lot of different roofs on there. You can give your clients a password, and you use a tablet. And when you're up there taking taking photos, it'll live download it, and you can create a report before you even get off the roof. We love it. It's really easy to use. Our clients love it, and you can also it's really built for roofers. We're not roofers, but it's really built for roofers because it has a management program in there where it can give a rating to the roof, and then the rating can then be addressed through a budget, and you can actually create budgets for like school districts or cities or different things like that. So it's really helpful. But of course, if you're going to do an inspection, don't do like most guys where you go inspect the roof, take a couple pictures, and you walk in with your cell phone and try to get a contract or try to get, you know, some type of a job from this client just based on going up on a roof. If you're going to go up there, you need to create a report. Your report needs to be well spelled out. Here's a lot of things that we do in our inspection. So the pre-inspection checklist is review documentation, of course, obtain the original installation records and warranty documents. If your clients will give you this stuff, usually you have a real good chance of getting having an ongoing relationship with them. And any as-built plans you can get, anything you can get from the clients is pay dirt for you to be their guy for, you know, the future. Because most inspections that we do it's not a big money maker, right? People aren't going to pay us a fortune to do inspections, but the reason we do the inspections is when there's a storm or there's a problem or a re-roof, that then we get to work. And so that's what the whole program's usually about for most people. Everybody's a little different, but for us and for others, that's the way it is. But if you get the original warranties, then you can show them, hey, you had a 55-mile-an-hour wind here, or you had hail damage here, and this warranty is going to be void, even though you have a warranty. And you may want to call the warranty manufacturer out or the warranty company and have them do an inspection. Also, be aware that if there is a warranty on the building, they are the ones that have to come do any repairs. So notify that warranty company, but also educate your client that for the warranty to stay in place, they have to be the ones that come back and do the patches. So be careful with that little situation. Review previous inspection reports. Also, any known leak history, very important. Then determine the roof age, system type, and the attaching method. Of course, don't do it, you know, when it's raining. Don't do inspections when it's raining or sleeting or snowing or anything like that. And also try to do it when there's no ponding water or high winds present. And then, of course, everybody knows all about the PPE and different fall protection and stuff like that. Notify your client when you're coming, and also notify the facility people. A lot of times we'll have the owner of the building tell us, hey, I go inspect, and we get out there and somebody's throwing a fit because we're up on their roof. So make sure that you loop everybody in, or you'll cause yourself a lot of problems. We've been down that road more than once. So make sure everybody is in line. If it's a city or especially a school district, make sure everybody follows the protocol. Checking in at the front desk at every location. And I know everybody wants to just, blow and go and get the job done. Make sure they check in at the office, they get a badge, everybody knows they're on campus. Make sure the people that go out there are not felons, okay, first of all, or have any kind of history of criminal behavior. Okay, you cannot send people out on public institutions that have problems. Okay, so make sure that you do your due diligence in all of that area. But these are some general roof conditions that you want to inspect for. Dirt, debris, and biological growth, okay? And here's the thing. recommend to your client what to do. Okay, don't just tell them, hey, there's dirt from that dust storm in Amarillo, Texas, that there's 2 inches of dirt up on your roof. No, say, here's some dirt, here's some debris, this needs to be taken care of. Here's a price from our company to come and power wash it or to do whatever you're going to do. Or at least put some type of a price together where they know, hey, if I clean the dirt and debris off of this organic growth, then this is what it's going to cost me. Have systems in place, have things you can do to help the people. If it's a modified bid bin cap sheet and it has tons and tons of granule loss and there's not enough hail damage on it for a claim, you may want to recommend a coating. And so have that information, have that price for a coating, and coatings are very profitable. But a coating is designed to give more life to the roof. That's what it's designed to do. So have those things kind of in your little bag of tricks that you're trying to do or trying to sell to particular people. Look at drainage. Look at anything that may be a problem on the roof. Okay, and you may walk into a building, and I've done this it was a fairly new elementary school. I believe it was Corpus Christi, Texas, and we went inside and looked and saw leaks, and I mean the school was probably 2 years old or less. And we get up on the roof, and immediately I find this was a design problem. Okay, they got a huge design problem here. So the first thing I tell my client is, hey, we got a big design problem. You need to get with your architect and you need to get this fixed because this will not go away. If you have a bad design, there's no roofing that's going to help. I mean, it'll help for a year or so, but it's going to be a continual problem. So if you're the guy that points that out and comes up with a solution, now you're the guy that they will begin to, guy or gal, that will begin to give them their business. Membrane condition, examine membranes for punctures, tear, abrasions, and UV degradation. Check for caulking, discolorization, brittleness, especially in older systems. It's real important. The older the system is, the more issues and problems you're probably going to find. There's more things that you can do to give that roof some more life. And so do your research, know the products that are out there, know the proper repairs of each system. In the past, we've seen a lot of coal tar roofs, and the coal tar roofs are failing. And as we look closer, we find the main reason they're failing is because people used regular asphalt on a coal tar roof. They're using the wrong product for this particular application. So know what type of roof you're on and know what the applications are and the repair methods for those particular things. NTRCA has most of that stuff mapped out for all of us, and it's pretty easy to find. Of course, seam inspection. We like to take a probe with us, and we check all the welds. Make sure they're not failing. Look for fish mouths, cold wells, and of course, here it says identify hand welds versus robotic seams. Yeah, you got to look at all those. It takes a lot of time to really do a good inspection. You got to walk those seams, and you got to make sure that there's not an issue or a problem that's coming, because the last thing you want to do is create a report and then they have a leak 2 weeks later in a system that you just missed. So make sure that you're seeing those areas. And of course, we know usually the big wide open areas, those are usually robotic seams. The areas that are really, really tight, those are usually hand welded, and usually you can tell by the material as well in that. Flashing and terminations, really, really big. What we find is that people don't like putting in any more screws than they absolutely have to. And so the flashings and the terminations usually don't have enough screws in them. So that should be a recommendation that you make. Do your homework. Know how many screws there should be. on this particular application, should it be 6 inches? Should it be 12 inches? What is it? Know those things so that when you get up there, you can then show the issue, and then, of course, have a solution to the problem for them. Check for proper termination bar sealants. And sealant bead is big. And sealants need to be replaced on a periodical basis. Most people don't know that or realize that. If you have sealants, if you have caulking and different things, a lot of that needs torn out every, 5 years? What would you say, Joe? Joe's about every 5 years, all that needs torn out and redone for the roof to maintain and be watertight, because the UV and everything on all that stuff is really, really tough on roofing systems. The heat that's produced on top of a roof is absolutely mind-boggling. We've all walked those roofs in the middle of the summer and know that it's a cluster up there. So just make sure you're seeing that you're looking for these termination bars, the different seams, and that you're doing a proper inspection on it. Penetrations and details: inspect the pipes, drains, HVAC units, skylights, the whole deal. We like to go ahead and measure the HVAC unit. I'm sorry, the drains. We like to measure the drains at 4 inches, a 6 inch. And then when we do our calculations, we can quickly do a calculation to see if they have enough drains. If there's we want to check to see if there's any emergency drains. If there's no emergency drains, you know what? That might be a recommendation. Hey, you don't have any emergency drains on this system. So I would recommend that we put in a scuffer, or we add some emergency drains. But do the calculations. It's real easy. If you need any of that, email us. We'll send it to you. And it's real simple to do. Anybody that knows how to do simple math can do all that stuff. You can also call Core Forensics, and they'll come out and do a complete write-up for you as well. Ensure pitch pockets are properly filled and sealed. Identify any signs of movement, mechanical damage around penetrations. Here's what happens a lot of times is the tenant will hire people to get up on the roof and put in a vent or add a bathroom or do something, and they do horrible work on top of the roof. And the owner of the building doesn't even know. Most times they don't know that their roof was compromised. So when you find those things, also know who the tenant is below, because that could be an issue for the owner of the building. And of course, if you help them fix that issue, then you're the guy or the gal. So real important. Edge and perimeter conditions: evaluate metal edging, parapet caps, membrane terminations, check for wind uplift signs, loose edges, flapping membrane. Okay. I'm going to stop this if I can. Y'all bear with me because I'm not great at this. And I'm going to try to change my screen. All right, I'm going to share one more thing here because I want to. Had it pulled up here. Here we go. All right, I'm going to share this. Can everybody see that picture? Yeah. Okay. So you can tell there was a leak because they're chasing a leak because they have a coating material up there, which is not the right application. Okay, first of all, not the right product. But if you look closely, you can see the wrinkling in the corner, and that's what I wanted to share. Okay, wrinkling in a corner of a roof is telltale wind damage. This was a large bunch of stores that had like the stucco. You can see the stucco. It was in Tucson, Arizona. Had hail and wind damage to it. This particular photo was one that was used to get this roof, this whole entire modified bitumen and the insulation, everything is replaced by the insurance company based on this wind damage photo and some others and some inspections we did on the property. But be looking for this kind of stuff. Be looking for wind damage, especially wrinkling of the corners, wrinkling of the seams. If it's a TPO or single ply, look for the fasteners to be popped or to be. I'm going to share my screen again. Hold on a second. I'll get back to where I was, hopefully. Here we go. All right, I think I'm back. Am I back? Same spot? I think so. So just be careful that you're seeing everything. Spend some time on the roof. Make sure you don't miss anything, and it's because all this is very, very important. And this is what we're going to talk about next is the attachment integrity. The attachment integrity on that photo I showed you was inadequate. Okay, whenever it lifts like that, it's not there's no adhesion anymore. If a fastener is pulled up, it's not fastened anymore. That there is a recipe for disaster, because a high wind come, it takes that roof, it peels the rest. Now you have total calamity in the entire building. It can destroy the whole building when the roof's gone. So make sure those things are taken care of and repaired properly. Perform pull tests. If a concern arises, you may want to consult with a licensed engineer or a company like Core to come out and do pull tests or to do a moisture survey, or you may want to do a moisture survey of your own. There's a reason that the fasteners pull up. Okay, it's usually the wind uplift. Sometimes it's a bad deck. So, begin to tell your clients the problems that they might have on their roof. Insulation condition. If you walk the roof systematically, you'll detect soft spots and deflection. Make sure those areas are inspected and they're not left undone. There's usually a leak or something going on in that area. Even though it may not be leaking on the inside, if the roof is soft, you got a problem. Something happened. Core cuts or infrared scans may be recommended to find hidden moisture. Of course, then leak detection and moisture intrusion. Moisture intrusion is the worst thing that can happen to a roof. As soon as you have moisture intrusion, the roof begins to deteriorate and will fail prematurely. Interior inspection. You want to coordinate with the facility, identify stains, molds, drips, use a thermal imaging camera or a moisture meter. Does somebody have a question? Okay, I thought I heard something. Maybe it was myself. And then, of course, moisture testing. Use compactness or impedance meters, non-destructive moisture scanning, or infrared. And then mark those areas for core analysis. Photo documentation reporting, again, it's paramount with everything. Capture images of all deficiencies, flashing, seams, penetrations, and general field conditions. What I like about Roof Logic is we're able to embed a photo and put an arrow to where that deficiency is right on our roof CAD. Okay, so it's real easy for not only the owner to see, but also for the guys that are doing the maintenance or they're doing the repair. You actually can give them the CAD and it'll have pictures, but you can do that yourself using Google Earth and different things. I mean, you don't have to pay for a big, system to help you. You can do that on your own. But I like having the documentation and an actual spot on the roof that will show them where the issues are and the problems. You don't want them to have to go up there and reinvent the wheel if you've already done all the work. Capture all deficiencies, and then, of course, label photos. We talked about that. And then sometimes you can mark the roof. You have to get permission from your owner, but if you have areas, you can actually put marks on the roof, a little dot of red paint, or, a lot of times the red grease pencils work really good. Those kind of things to mark the roof up. And then, of course, recommendations. We recommend, in Roof Logic, I think there are 4 different categories. This particular protocol has 3, which are minor, moderate, or severe. And here's kind of the recommendation, corrective action. Immediate is 24 to 72 hours. Short term is 1 to 3 months. And long term is 6 to 12 months. So have these things in front of your client so they understand, hey, this is immediate. This is 911. I got to get this done today. I got to make a decision. Or we need to do this in 6 to 12 months. This is something we can plan for. So have that in front of your people. And then, of course, follow up a maintenance plan. Provide a maintenance schedule. Perfect scenario, twice a year. And you can do it, you know, I would like to do it, if I had a roof, I would like to do it after the peak of storm season in my area. And then before winter comes, when there could be possible snows and other issues that could cause more damage. So, you know, if it was June or July inspection and then maybe an October to December inspection, that would be perfect on roofing. If it was my roof, that's what I would need. And of course, you know, recommended. You could, and here's what I would recommend too, is I would recommend creating, like, based on the age of a roof, what you could do. So let's say, I'll just use as an example, if it's a single ply TPO roof, I would say year 5, all caulking and termination joints are inspected, all caulking is removed and, you know, recaulked, and pitch pans are checked or even redone. Drains are cleaned, you know, that kind of thing. I recommend rotor-rootering the drains. That way you get, you know, you're on the job, you get a rotor-rooter guy, he gets up on, he rotor-roots that drain all the way to the street. Okay, because that's a big problem. Those drains, usually they're just for the roof. Those need taken care of just like any other normal drain. But the amount of water that goes through that drain is unbelievable. We've seen so many roofs that have either collapsed or had water that went through penetrations, up and over through penetrations, because the roof drains were clogged and it couldn't keep up. So it caused more damage than if they would have just had some maintenance done.
Don,
yes.
someone in the Zoom chat asked, they said they're curious if RCAT CE will be issued.
That's out of my league. I don't know the answer to that right now, but I can find out. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I do know, I believe I'm a guest speaker again this fall at RCAT, I believe. Is that true? Over there?
It's still in submission.
Oh, okay. I got an email the other day from it, said I was selected. So maybe it is. I don't know. We'll see. Okay. So any questions that we have on TPO or single ply roofs? So can I go ahead? I'm sorry.
Whenever you were talking about the lifespan of coating, how I think you said it was 5 years old. Mm-hmm. So if somebody's doing an inspection, obviously, would they need to ask them how old the coating is before to put into the report?
Yes. Now, coatings were created typically for to give more life to a roof, and they were usually a built-up roof. Most of them had cap sheets. Okay, modified bitumen cap sheets. And the coatings were created to give it some more life, because as soon as you start losing the granules off of a cap sheet, it deteriorates really, really fast because of UV. And then next thing you know, you have leaks, you have problems, and the thing disintegrates, right? So the coating would give it more lifespan. That's what it's created for. And it works. Typically, a modified bitumen cap sheet starts to lose granules and deteriorate pretty significantly after they're 10 years old. Okay, that's them. And you know, where it is, you know, in the country, whether it's coastal or intercoastal, all those things apply. Whether there's a lot of snow or weight of snow, or those things all matter. Everything, you know. So, but I'm just talking about Dallas-Fort Worth area, 10 years to 15. It's going to need a coating if you want to keep that roof alive for another up to the 25 year mark. 25 years is really pushing it for a built up roof with a cap sheet. If they're that old, they're pretty brittle. Okay. BURGs, which is a gravel ballasted built up roof, they can last longer, and mostly because the gravel is protecting the roof from the ultraviolet. Okay, so it doesn't dry out as much as long as it's well maintained. Of course, the coal tar roofs last the longest. I mean, some of us, there's some that are 60, 70 years old out there. You know, they're still performing. But the reason they perform is because they pretty much liquefy in the summer and they migrate. You know, it's a flat roof, totally flat. And if there's a hole, it kind of migrates down and fills the hole up a little bit. That's the theory. They work pretty good though. They've withstood the test of time, but nobody wants to work with them anymore. The workers hate them. If you've ever seen guys take off a coal tar roof, they have to put gloves on, long sleeve shirts, and put glasses on and hoodies on. They can't have any skin showing because that coal tar will just eat your skin up. And it's very, very expensive to put on and also to have removed. So, all right. So if there's no questions on, let me just say this about TPO and single ply. This may help some of you that are out there. When you're inspecting TPO or single ply roofing, EPDM, PVC, all of those, and you're inspecting for hail damage, let me give you a little tip. If you inspect it early in the morning, especially in the fall, sometimes it'll work in the summer, but a lot of times there's not enough humidity in the summer. You can many, many times get up there and you will find a little bit of moisture in those spots where the hail has actually impacted and caused a fracture or a mini fracture, what I call a mini fracture, which are really, really hard to detect in that system. So try the early morning, especially, it works really, really good on EPDM, the black EPDMs. You can see it like, it's just like daylight. You can go up there and mark each one of them and take samples and do whatever you're going to do. But when you're looking for hail damage, remember that little tip that you'll find that moisture right there where that hole is in that system. But also I want to say that all of the single plies have what we classify as latent damage. In other words, they may be impacted today, but there's not a fracture. You go back in 3 months, you'll find fractures. So if you inspect a roof right after a storm and you can't find any fractures, look for hail size. Number one, if the hail was large enough to have damaged this particular roof, then do a reinspection in 3 to 6 months. Many times when we get involved in a claim and it's a single ply, if we can't find a lot of fractures, I'll say, hey, I don't find any today, but I'm just letting you know we're coming back in 6 months. This claim's not closed. Oh, well, you know, they throw a fit and they want to close the claim. I say, well, we're coming back and looking at it in 6 months because of the latent damage. It's well documented out there from everybody. They all know that, and we've all been there where we look at it one day and go back, you know, 2 or 3 months later, we find new fractures. And so make sure that the single plies are looked at. And another tip for you is look for what we classify as an anvil hit. Where the fastener is, the hail will hit the edge of the TPO right there and cause a small mini fracture. That fracture will grow in size as it ages. So that's another thing to look for when you're inspecting a single ply roofing system or the anvil hits. Another thing is know what kind of insulation is under the single ply. If it is an ISO with a paper, especially with a paper facer, Many times it fractures that paper facer, and that is damage, and that is also a fire rating on that system. So make sure that we look at those types of things on a hail, especially a hail inspection. On a wind inspection, if you ever get on a roof and you see where the fasteners are white on the top, that is typical wind damage from the sheets, especially if it's a mechanically attached system and it's not directly adhered. That is damage from that stress of that fastener holding that particular sheet down as it bellows in the winds or is lifted from the winds. So make sure you pay really, really close attention to those areas that are on top of the fasteners that look white in color. And you'll see it on, I don't have a picture that I can pull up really, really quick, or I'd pull one up. But if you want one, what it looks like, you can send me an email and I'll send you a picture of what that looks like. Also look to see if the fasteners have pulled up or are loose, because that's exactly what happens. There's many, many articles that are out there right now about the line of fasteners and how they attach to the deck and the stress that's involved. The amount of stress that's involved on those fasteners is unbelievable. So especially if it's a mechanically attached system. So look at all of that. Here's another big thing to look for. On a directly adhered system, you may want to look to see, is there double insulation or is it single insulation? Because if it's just one single piece of insulation, to me, that's not proper installation, so it's poor installation. But the air will come up between the sheets and it will delaminate or loosen the glue and cause the bellowing or billowing of the sheets. And it's almost like in a checkerboard fashion many, many times. So those are all things to look for. Look for the corners, look for the termination joints, look for all of the different issues when it comes to storm damage, and pulled fasteners, lifted fasteners. And if you have any questions at all, you can give us a call. We'll come look at a project for you if you want us to, or we can you can send us pictures and we can give you some advice on it. Okay, any questions on this before I move on from single plies? Okay, then we will move on to another one. Okay, this is the asphalt built up roof, BUR inspection protocol. And I've already talked about a lot of this, so I won't go into great detail about it. And then once again, we'll send all these to you so you have them. But same thing, gather roof history, prepare records, identify the system, 4-ply, 3-ply, surface type, gravel cap sheet, aluminum coating, whatever it is, understand that. And a lot of times you have all of those at one spot. And I don't know who the roofers are that are out there that are doing repairs on roofs. And it's a BURG roof, and they'll come and put a big old piece of TPO and on the area that's leaking. And then they'll use a termination bar along the edges. I mean, shame on whoever did that, is all I gotta say. Make sure that you're repairing these roofs properly. Okay. So on a BURG roof, if it's an old roof, many times the viscosity of the roof, or let me just say, it's kind of like paint. Paint has some elasticity to it. As it ages and gets old, it loses that elasticity and it begins to crack. Asphalt's the same way. It loses its modifiers, and next thing you know, it becomes brittle and it begins to crack. So years ago, I was like 21 years old. I had this great big church and it had roof leaks everywhere. And we did a lot of BURG roofs, even a lot of residential houses in El Paso, where I lived in El Paso, were all BURG. And so I get up there with my crew, and we were pretty good at fixing leaks. And we get up there and we do all of our deal and do proper repairs. And it rained about 3 weeks later. No, I'll take that back. it was in the fall. Right after, in the spring, it started raining in the spring, and the guy called me and said the church is leaking like crazy. So I went out there, and of course, everywhere where we patched it was separated. And I mean, I went through this for years because I couldn't figure out why. Maybe we didn't get the asphalt hot enough. We get it hotter, and then the thing would catch on fire, And but we dealt with this for years to the point to where, in my younger years, I was like, I am not warranting any repair of an asphalt roof. I'm just not going to do it. I'll give it my best shot. Here's what it's going to cost. I have no guarantees. And but the reason that was happening, I found out many years later, was because the old asphalt will not bond with the new asphalt because the modifiers is gone, the viscosity is gone in that asphalt. So make sure that if you get an old roof and you're going to do a repair, that you do a core sample of that. You can send it to a core forensics lab, and they will do a ring and ball test on it to see if it's going to be able to adhere to the new asphalt. Otherwise, run away from it. Recommend a new roof, or you can do a patch job with some asphalt and some other stuff, but just be really, really careful that if you think you're going to fix a leak on an old roof. Confirm drainage and design and deck type. What kind of deck does it have? Weather and safety check, of course, we talked about all that. And then surface inspection. The gravel surfaced. Check for displaced gravel, exposed felts, or bitumen. Now, if there is a lot of areas on a gravel surfaced roof that are bare, or the gravel is moved away because of rain, or sometimes because of the building flexing, or a lot of different issues, blisters, different things, then make sure, first of all, that you can patch that roof, but then give them an option of being able to do a flood recoat or something like that, to where you get that gravel back in those areas that are exposed. Because if you're just pushing gravel over there or adding some gravel without having some type of asphalt or adhesive, it's just all going to wash away again, and you're going to have the same problem again. So, in your estimate of repair or in your recommendations, that should be something that's there, that you put in there that will make sure that asphalt or those rocks, the gravel, will stay on top of the built up. Blisters. So how can you tell if a blister is a blister because of installation, or because it's a blister because of wind uplift? It's real easy. You got to cut the roof. So if you cut the blister and it's as slick as a baby's butt, that was installation. Okay? The asphalt it either cooled, or it wasn't a good asphalt coating or something, and it just, the sheet just laid over the top. It never adhered to the sheet below. But if you cut it and it's rough like my face in the morning, then there was some type of adhesion there that went on, and this is more than likely from wind uplift. And gravel ballasted roofs, that's one of the things that are a negative to gravel ballasted roofs, is they are susceptible, like all roofs are, from wind uplift. So be sure that you look at those issues, and then of course you're putting together the right recommendation for repair. Examine for UV issues, cracks, alligatoring, loss of coating, reflective coat wearing, discolorization. All of those are issues. Most people don't realize this about a coating. A lot of people have a coating, they put a coating down, and they really don't do the due diligence whether that coating can be applied in that particular region or that particular area. Most of us have been on roofs where the coating looks great, except you get to one spot and the coating is just flaking and peeling. Well, there was an issue with the adhesion of that coating in that particular area. There's possible moisture in the system. So a moisture survey is mandatory, especially if you want a warranty on any kind of coating system. So make sure you're doing a moisture survey to make sure there's no wet insulation or the coating will never stick. We just had a loss in Abilene, Texas, where the hail impacted the coating and busted the coating up, and they said, just power wash it and, put another coating on it. That's what we're going to pay for. Of course, it's always the easy way out, right? Well, he tried. The roofer got up there and power washed, and it kept coming up. It kept coming up. It was like an endless flaking away of this coating. And so, he called us, and we, of course, went out and inspected it and got with the insurance company about it. But it was irreparable. The roof had to be replaced. You couldn't go over the top of this coating because nothing was going to adhere to it. And remember that there's an adhesion test that you can do with the coating. So do your adhesion test. Make sure it's going to adhere to that particular product before you recommend it to your client. And then, of course, membrane integrity to identify all the issues: ridging, splitting, dryness, bitterness, exposed plies. Probe open cracks or splits to determine the depth or severity of that particular. A lot of it is slippage. Most people know what slippage is on a system. Just check those issues, and and you may want to recommend to your client and say, hey, this roof is beyond its lifespan. We can get a few more years out of it by doing this, and this is going to be the cost. We recommend replacement, but here's what you can do if you need a few years on this roof. And just be advised, it's not going to be watertight. It's probably going to leak. It's probably going to have problems, but and a lot of guys are, well, let me just patch it up and hope for a good storm, then the insurance company will pay for it. And that's what a lot of property managers do, okay? And that's their prerogative. But have some type of assessment that you can give them because that brings value to your client, which then makes you their guy. Adhesion check. Walk the roof in a grid pattern. If you feel any soft areas, same thing. Observe lifting membranes, spongy insulation. Slightly tug on the edges or lap seams to assess adhesion. And of course, flashings and penetrations. Check for proper adhesion and termination of base flashings. Look for open laps, fish mouths, cracking at the corners. Real important. Now, and corners are a big deal, especially on these big, large buildings. Not just the corners on the outside perimeter, but also the corners where they might have an expansion joint. Check those corners because a lot of these buildings will move and shift, and they have some expansion and some retraction that's going on. So check those areas as the building might be moving and causing some issues. Verify counter flashings and just seal everything. Make everything like it's supposed to be. Equipment and penetrations, inspection around HVAC units, vent stacks, skylights, drains. Ensure pitch pans are fully sealed, same thing. Identify signs of movement, wrinkling, water staining. And then look for edge details. Examine the edge metal, the gravel stops, the parapet caps for rust, gaps, and detachment. All these are really, really big issues, especially on a BUR roof or a BURG, either one. And then, of course, the termination joint are watertight. Make sure there's enough screws in the HVAC unit so that if a big windstorm comes, it's not going to blow off the HVAC unit. And then, of course, drainage evaluation, slope and flow, identify areas of ponding water. Anything longer than 48 hours after a rain is an issue. Ponding water will deteriorate the system in those areas, okay? Not just that all the crap runs to that bottom and creates organic growth, but also just the water being on the roof for long periods of time is very, very problematic to a roofing system. So a lot of times we'll go up, we'll document when it rains. When it quits raining, 48 hours later, we'll go back, take photos, and we can timestamp whether there's ponding that's, that really needs to be dealt with on this particular roof. Ensure the slope is adequate and consistent toward the drain. And, if you have a client that's real interested in drainage and there's drainage problems, it's real easy to invest in, I think they're under $1,000. You can invest in a laser level, and you can go up on that roof and you can do a 10 by 10 grid, mark down one area, numbers, mark down the other way, letters, and then do a grid system, and you can get exactly the slope of that roof. Okay, I mean down to a 1/16 of an inch, and it's real simple to do, and anybody can do that. And so you can charge your client for that. Say, hey, we really need to, know what this particular building's doing. A lot of buildings, especially over there in Dallas, the Irving area, I mean, they got 6 inches, 8 inches of movement in some of that soil. And some of those buildings have moved around, and there's no draining at all. And you may want to recommend, hey, on this roof replacement, we're going to recommend that you put in a tapered system, okay? Because it's draining the wrong way now, where it used to drain okay. So whenever you're the expert, you're going to get credibility with your client, and that's what you want to build. Drain components, inspect internal drains, strainers, scuppers, gutters, all of that. And I guarantee you, if you go to your client and you start inspecting the drains and you walk inside and then you're recommending that the drains are roto-rooted, that he's going to go, man, this guy really knows what he's doing. He's taking care of business. If you put together a drainage package for him and he understands it, I mean, that's to me, that's pay dirt for your client. They'll always call you back. Remove debris and ensure positive drainage, collect, and then of course, check around all types of flashing and metal penetrations. Interior inspection, look for water stains, mold, bubbling paint, same thing, and ceiling damage. Match interior leaks to known rooftop features. That's a big deal, okay, because if you can find the leak on the inside, you can usually go on the outside and find the culprit. And then you can tell them, hey, this was right underneath this HVAC unit, and the guy isn't maintaining his units well, and here's the problem. It's into the insulation. Just different things that you can tell your client. And then moisture detection, use the different types of moisture, infrared and moisture meters that we've talked about. And then of course, back to documentation and reporting. Photo documentation. Take really good photos. Also take photos of the entire roofing system, okay? In other words, you want, and I don't know if anybody has a copy of my book, but in my book, I talk about the proper way to document, and you should start in the corner of a building, and the picture should overlap to where every part of that roof has a photo of some type you could zoom in on to see if there's damage. Do all the corners of the roof, and then of course do detailed type of photos throughout. But if you have a documentation of the roof, and you may say, hey, this roof's in great shape, you just need this done or you need that done, everything looks good. You now have a baseline for your client that is very valuable to him. It's valuable because if he's going to sell the building, he can provide that report. Hey, ABC Roofing looked at my roof. Here are the photo file. Here's the report that he created. He said these were the little issues. We took care of that. Here's the estimates for that. Here are the checks that we took care of that issue. And here's a history of that every year for the last 10 years. As a new owner, they're going to be really, really excited about buying that building. So it adds value to that client. And it will keep his building from falling apart, knowing all the deficiencies and particular issues of that building. So very, very important that people get their commercial buildings looked at on a regular basis. Again, condition rating, good, fair, poor, or you can create your own metrics on that, what you like to call it. And then, of course, the repair recommendations, immediate, preventive, or capital planning. Put together a plan for him, spring and fall. I love spring. I love late spring here and late fall in this area. But, in a hurricane area, it probably would be spring and fall. That's where they want to know before a hurricane hits, what were the conditions of the roof? And then after the storms were over, what's the conditions of the roof? They're all really, really important. Debris cleaning after major storms. And this is a really, really good segue to getting clients is after a big storm. Hey, we just had a big storm. It blew a lot of limbs and branches, and we have a crew that can come out and, assess and give you a real quick estimate of cleaning all your drains and cleaning all the junk off your roof. And we'll look to see if there's any storm damage. I mean, who wouldn't want to do that, And so those are all really, really good things to do that will help people that have a roof, because people want to know. They're not going to get up there. They got to go through, dead pigeons and, everything else that's up there. I mean, it's amazing what you'll find on top of a roof. I think people live up on some of those roofs. I found blankets, and I don't even want to talk about it. But anyways, provide maintenance schedules for coatings or gravel redistribution, and then of course note the access, the protocol, and of course protective measures. So all these are really, really good. If you can get a picture of their building, if you get good pictures of their building, everybody likes good pictures of their building. Just like we all like good selfies, right? They like the same thing. So provide good documentation, good reports